Hello, and happy Halloween! Welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile video. Today I am going to be going over my latest pet deck. This is a deck that I've been working on continually for quite a while now, actually. I've been testing it just about every day to make sure that it is in a fun and playable state for you, the audience, so that I can make a deck profile on it. This is, fitting for Halloween, my Zombie Synchro deck. So, as always, with my deck profiles, I will go over the main deck and the extra deck first, one card at a time, and then I will, delve a bit deeper into some of the combos and interactions of the deck. Now, I should also say that I test this deck on Master Duel. However, I build it according to the TCG ban list. So even if you're playing this deck in a TCG environment, it will still be perfectly playable. In fact, it'll probably be even better because there are certain broken cards that are legal on Master Duel that aren't legal out here. So yeah, make of that what you will. So without anything further, let's get into these cards right now. So first of all, I have this pile of tuner monsters, because what would a synchro deck be without a healthy number of tuners? Now, I have two of these glow-up blooms, and they are extremely useful. I guess you could call them combo pieces, but they're extremely useful. Because, you see, if this card is sent to the graveyard, from anywhere, I might add, you can banish it from the graveyard and add a level 5 or higher zombie from your deck to your hand. But if Zombie World, the field spell, is in the field zone, you can special summon it from your deck instead. So this is a great way to enable plays, or to make plays keep on going, or just to get big stuff into play if you want to attack with it or something. You can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies, so that does limit a few of the things you can do, but not really, and it is generally worth using this effect if you can. After that, we also have this Plague Spreader zombie here, because you gotta have one of those, right? You just gotta. You can return a card from your hand to the top of your deck to special summon this card from the graveyard, and if you do, you remove it from play when it is removed from the field. You banish it, rather. Old wording, you see. But this is a great card. You can, I mean, if you can get it into play legitimately somehow, then, yeah, you can use it to synchro summon away and then bring it right back to synchro something even bigger. Yeah, it's great. Or you can just ditch it to the graveyard through other means and bring it right back as a special summon. Very useful little zombie. I only run it at 1 because it is pretty easy to search, and you generally won't be doing this more than once per game anyway. And also we have 3 of these Unizombies. This is, I guess, the closest thing this deck gets to a starter, because it does a lot of useful stuff. You see, you can target a face-up monster on the field, you can discard a card and increase that target's level by 1. Okay, make some synchro summons possible, or you can also target a face-up monster on the field. Monsters you control can't attack, except zombies, and you can send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard. Now that is an ability you'll be seeing a lot of in this deck. Zombies do like to send other zombies to the graveyard. Oh, and if you do, increase the target's level by 1. So this thing can raise its own level by up to 2, or it can raise other monsters' levels. If your opponent has something in play and you want this to stay at level 3, you can raise your opponent's monsters up levels, if you so choose. But these are useful abilities just to get stuff into your graveyard, and therefore I run this at 3. Now, I also run this little package of Shiranui monsters. Yeah, there's a few of them, and it's not a huge part of the deck, but they are very useful, and they help to make things run well. So we start off with Shiranui Solitaire. I got 2 of those. And this is another pseudo-starter to the deck, and I use the term starter loosely in all these cases. I'll explain why when we get to the other part of the video. But anyway, what this does, you tribute a zombie monster and special summon a zombie tuner with 0 defense from your deck. And, well, wouldn't you know it, Yugioh Zombie here just so happens to have 0 defense, so this is really just a way to get Yugioh Zombie into play if you didn't open with one. And if this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Shiranui monsters, except Solitaire, or up to 2 instead if Shiranui-style Synthesis is on the field, which is not going to happen, and you special summon them. So all these Shiranui cards, they do things when they're banished as well, which does have certain uses throughout the deck. We will see many cards that banish other zombies from here or there, so sometimes you can really make some cool plays off of that. But yeah, 2 of those. And Shiranui Spectral Sword here, I guess I do have one more tuner, but I put it in with the Shiranuis. So this is a weird card, but it's really cool if this card is in your graveyard except the turn it was sent there, which is unfortunate, but you can kind of play around with that. You can target a non-tuner zombie in your graveyard, banish both of them, and if you do, special summon a Zombie Synchro from your extra deck, whose level equals the total levels of those 2. So you can Synchro summon from the graveyard with the Spectral Sword, which is a nifty ability, and it, again, maybe not on turn 1, but on turn 3, you can use this to play some real big stuff pretty much for free just out of your graveyard by, Synchro summoning something big, which is, again, a cool ability. I have only one of these because it can be it can be searched for something. I'm using magic terminology here. It can be searched with another card. This one, in fact, Shiranui Squire. So when this card is normal summoned, this has to be normal summoned, you can special summon the Spectral Sword right out of your hand or deck. So it's an easy way to get that and just go right into a level 6. But if this card is banished, you can draw a card and discard a card. Again, a useful ability to have. Sometimes you will often want to just banish this out of your graveyard by some means to get that extra draw and discard, because anything in your graveyard is typically not a dead card. So yeah, not a bad effect to have, and again, it just goes right into a level 6 with the Spectral Sword. And my final Shiranui is the Spirit Master. So when this is normal summoned, you can special summon a Shiranui from your hand or graveyard, except Spirit Master. Well, there's only one, so you're not choosing another one of these. You don't often have multiple Shiranuis in your hand, especially since there's only one of these anyway, but, it happens sometimes. The important thing, though, about this one is that when it is banished, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, so it is removal. So if you're banishing this to pay some sort of cost, well, you might as well just destroy something of your opponent's at the same time, right? It works out well that way. And here we have a small pile of graveyard mechanic zombies. These are, I guess you could sort of call them combo pieces, maybe, but they have effects from the graveyard that just help you continue playing and doing cool things. Mizuki here, you can remove it, banish it from your graveyard, rather, to special summon another zombie from your graveyard. And I've got 2 of these. That is not a once per turn. So if you've got both of these in your graveyard, you can just keep on summoning other cards, which is really cool. We also have the Gozuki here. During the main phase, you can send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard. So again, this kind of acts like a starter. You can get the ball rolling, send that little bloom tuner to the graveyard or something to do other effects. But when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish a zombie from your graveyard, except this one, to special summon another one from your hand. So it also special summons things and banishes things. See, if you've got any of those Shiranuis in there, you can use those effects. Again, it does a lot of things, and you can pretty easily fit this into whatever it is you're trying to do on your turn. And the final one of these graveyard effects, we have the Necro World Banshee. So, Zombie World in your field zone, in the field zone rather, can't be destroyed by card effects. It protects Zombie World if you happen to have it out. Neither player can target it with card effects, or you can banish this card from your field or graveyard to activate a Zombie World directly from your deck. So I have only one Necro World Banshee, but it is easy to search up. You've already seen several cards that send other zombies to the graveyard, and then this can be used to immediately play a Zombie World, which is very useful to the deck. Yeah, we will get to that later, though, when we arrive at the spells and traps. And finally, we have the big zombies. These are, higher level ones with other powerful effects. Changshi the Spiridao here. I run one of these, and I must say that I was very surprised with how useful this card is. It is kind of an all-star in the deck. During your main phase, you can send a zombie from your hand or deck to the graveyard, so again, it fills up the graveyard with stuff. But if this card is banished, you can banish a zombie in your graveyard to special summon this card. So, very often, this is just like a free special summon and then a free send another zombie to the graveyard. It fits very flawlessly into a lot of quote-unquote combos in this deck. So you very often want to be finding this card, although it's not a great card to have in your opening hand since you don't want to be normal summoning this thing. But still, great effects. We also have the Jacko Bolin here. You can discard a zombie to special summon this card from your hand. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect. You can target a zombie in either graveyard, special summon that monster, but banish it when it leaves the field, and then banish this face-up card until the end phase, when it comes right back. So this is a pretty easy special summon, and again, it gets something that you might not want in your hand into your graveyard so that you can use its effects there. So it is a useful one, and if you have that glow-up bloom, whatever it was called, and you don't have Zombie World in play, this is a good one to search out of your deck just so that you can get something else in play to maybe link into something. And then finally, of course, we have two of the Doom King Balder Drochs. Yeah, this is, this really is the heart and soul of this zombie deck, besides the big scary synchros, of course, but this is an extremely powerful card. It does so much stuff. Yeah, let's see if I can give you a look at this effect. I would love it to focus for me. Yeah, there we go, that's better. So yeah, during the standby phase, either standby phase, if a face-up card is in the field zone and this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon it in defense. So it comes back on either player's turn, so if you send this to the graveyard on your turn, it'll just show right up again on your opponent's turn. It's, yeah, it's an extremely difficult card to get rid of. And you can only use this effect once per turn, of course, and once per chain. When a zombie monster, except this one, activates its effect, and there's a lot of zombies that activate effects, then you can apply one of these effects. Either negate that effect or banish a monster from the field or graveyard. And you can only use each of these options once per turn. So you may be wondering why you would want to negate your own zombie effects. Well, oh yeah, just you wait until we get to the spells and traps, and then you will see perfectly clear. But I do run two of these because it is just so important to the running of the deck that we have one of these. And sometimes one of them gets banished or something, and other times you might just have both of these in play. These things happen, but it's never a bad thing. So yeah, running two of the Doom King. Of course, we also have a few hand traps. We have the Ash Blossoms and Joyous Springs, because it's a generally useful card to have. What you do is when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, you can discard this card and negate that effect. So add a card from the deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the graveyard. So if your opponent is searching stuff, you can discard one of these to stop that from happening. However, as common as it is to see Ash Blossom in, like, any deck, really, it is a zombie, which means that it actually can be used in this deck for other purposes. If you send this to the graveyard, you can banish it to some effects, you could special summon it and actually use it as a tuner. Like, there are actually things that you can do with this card that you would never do in other decks, and I just think that's kind of cool. So yeah, we're running 3 Ash Blossoms. So let's get into the spells now. We've got a few spells that special summon things. Foolish Burial just sends a monster from your deck to the graveyard. Well, a lot of monsters do that as well, but you might as well have a freebie on a spell like this, so yeah, very good card. 1 for 1, again, you can send a monster from your hand to the graveyard, so you discard something, and then you special summon one of those little glow-up blooms from your deck. So you just get a free one of those, and then you can start whatever little combos you might have in mind. And Ready Fusion, you pay 1,000 life points, special summon a level 6 or lower non-effect fusion from your extra deck. It can't attack, destroyed during the end phase. This just gives you more fodder for your synchro summoning plays later on. But it is a pretty much free special summon as well. And that gets us to Zombie World, the field spell. Yeah, I've got 2 of these. All monsters on the field and in the graveyards become zombie monsters. Neither player can tribute summon monsters except zombie monsters. Well, tribute summoning doesn't happen often, but turning everything else into a zombie is very, very important. And also this enables, once again, glow-up bloom, not bulb, glow-up bloom from, to use its effects properly, yes. So you really want one of these in play. You could run 3 of them, I did for a long time, but then I found that I would often just draw an extra one and didn't really want that, and it's not like you can't search this with the Banshee, which is itself pretty easily searchable, so I think 2 is enough. But there's nothing stopping you from running 3. It really is that important. And that brings me to my removal. So we've got a small pile of removal here, starting with Lightning Storm. I run 2 of these because it is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel that I typically play this deck on, and therefore you never know what might happen. Sometimes you don't go first, and then you're really happy to draw a Lightning Storm. What it does, if you control no face-up cards, so, you know, you're going second, then you can either destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls, or all their spells and traps instead. So yeah, we got 2 of these. They're good to have in case of emergencies. We also have Twin Twisters here, which, again, I run 2 of them. You discard a card, target up to 2 spells or traps on the field, and destroy them. And this is a quick play spell, so you can set it on your turn. Just generally good removal because pretty much every deck out there has annoying spells and traps, so it's good to have stuff like this, I find anyway. There's also the Triple Tactics talent if your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase, so, you know, if they hand trap you or something, then you can either draw 2 cards, take control of one of their monsters for the turn, or look at their hand, choose 1 card from it, and shuffle it into the deck. So it does a lot of things, and kind of punishes them for punishing you. So yeah, I have only 1 of these because, I don't know, I find that even having 2 is too much sometimes, but it is a good effect if you can get it to go off. And then, of course, there is the One Called by the Grave, because I believe this card is limited to 2 on Master Duel, but in the TCG it's limited to 1, so I'm only running 1. You target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. If you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. So if they try to hand trap you, you can use this to deal with that hand trap. And yeah, once again, on Master Duel, there are certain hand traps that you really don't want to go off against you. So Called by the Grave is certainly handy to have if you happen to open it in your opening hand. Finally, this brings us to the trap cards of the deck. There's a few more in this deck than I typically run, but, you know, they're good ones to have. We start off with the Shiranui-style Swallow Slash, a Shiranui trap card. So you tribute a zombie-type monster, which isn't usually so bad, since a lot of them want to be in the graveyard anyway. And then you target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, so, hey, you get 2 of your opponent's cards at once, and then you banish a Shiranui from your deck, and you can only activate 1 of these per turn. So you do get that Shiranui banish effect that most of them have, and they do all sorts of good stuff. So depending on what the field looks like after you destroy 2 cards, you have a bit of a choice as to what you banish and what effects you want to get. I run 2 of these. They're just, they're really good to have if you can set them on your first turn. This deck does want to go first. And here we have the Rivalry of Warlords. Each player can only control 1 type of monster, send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So I don't like this card. I think it is very rude, and not a very fun card to play, like, at all. But given what else this deck wants to do, I think it's pretty necessary, and while I actually think this is, like, unlimited in the TCG, but in Master Duel it's limited to 1, and I don't mind that. You know, if you get it, then you can use it. If you don't get it, it's not a big deal. You can do fun things instead. So the reason this is so good is that if you have Zombie World, then everything's a zombie. And unless your opponent is actually playing a zombie deck, if they have anything in play, they won't be able to play anything else, because in their hand it won't be a zombie. And it kind of just locks them out of the game until they can get rid of this. So yeah, not a fun card, but sometimes it's necessary, and again, if it's only at 1, that's not so bad. And then we have, of course, my triple infinite impermanences, which I run in every deck. You target a face-up monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. If this card was set before you use it, then for the rest of the turn all other spells and traps in this card's column are negated, and if you control no cards, so if your opponent's going first, you can activate this from your hand. Yeah, it's just a generally really good card to stop your opponent from using annoying abilities, which is why I have 3 of them, because it's generally never a card you don't want to see in your opening hand. So now let's get into the extra deck, shall we? There is 1 fusion monster, the Great Mammoth of Goldfine. It is a level 6 with 2200 attack, but you can play this with Ready Fusion, and that is the important part. And being level 6 is relevant, actually, because it enables you to play, well, to use this as synchro material to play other things, provided you have a tuner, so that's really its only purpose in the deck. But hey, you know what, it's there, and it's an easy special summon, so I'll take it. The Synchro monsters, on the other hand, are much more interesting. So here we have the Immortal Dragon at level 6. So during your main phase, you can send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard, so it's yet another way to do that. And if you do, this card's level becomes the difference of original levels of that monster and this one. So you can kind of use that to mess around with levels. It is itself a tuner, so maybe you could use that to just continue synchro summoning as well. And when your zombie monster is destroyed by battle while this is in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it does come back once, which is not a bad thing to have. 2400 defense isn't tiny, so technically this could conceivably survive back till your turn as well. But mostly it's just there for the additional foolish burial effect. Now we also have the Doom Kaiser Dragon, level 6. This one needs Plague Spreader Zombie, so that is worth noting. But when it is special summoned, you can target a zombie in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it. Again, works really well with Zombie World, but I find that I don't use this card too often. Still, with Plague Spreader Zombie, you can play at least one extra monster with this, and maybe even bring back the Plague Spreader Zombie to synchro into something else. So it's not bad. It is definitely usable, I think. The Red-Eye Zombie Necro Dragon is another cool dragon zombie synchro. There's a whole bunch of them. That is one of the reasons why I built this deck, because I just thought these were all so cool. This one's at level 7, gains 100 attack and defense for each zombie on the field and in the graveyards though, so it gets big. And when another zombie is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a zombie from either graveyard to your field. So similar to the Doom Kaiser Dragon, especially with Zombie World in play, you can use this to just steal your opponent's stuff, or bring your own things back, either way. And continuing on with the dragons, we have the Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. I use this one a lot actually. This one's useful. It's at level 8, and if this card is special summoned, you can target a monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it. So this is removal on a 2800 attack body, and defense for that matter. So it is, rather good. And if a monster is special summoned from either graveyard, then you can target one other face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn. That effect I rarely use because I typically use it to clear the enemy's field by banishing something troubling. But, you know, that negation effect is there in case it becomes relevant. And we have the Shiranui Shogun Saga here. This is one of the deck's finishers, actually, even though it's only at level 8. 3000 attack is pretty big to begin with, but when this card is special summoned, you can banish a zombie from your graveyard, and this card gains its attack until the end of the turn, so it gets massive. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, target one of your banished zombies with 0 defense and return it to the graveyard. Okay, I mean, I guess that's there. That's not a bad thing. But the important thing is this thing can pretty easily hit 5000 attack or more. It enables some OTKs. Now, level 9, I will admit right now, level 9 is a weakness of this deck, because there aren't any level 9 zombie synchros that I would use. So we have this Ravenous Croco Dragon Archethus here instead, and really all it does is it gains attack for each card in your hand, but if this card is synchro summoned, draw cards equal to the number of non-tuners used for it, synchro summon. Or you can discard 2 cards and target a card on the field and destroy it, so it's not bad, and it can draw you cards, but I really wish there was a level 9 zombie that I could use instead, because again, it does happen that you're locked out of playing non-zombies, and this just so happens to be a non-zombie. Level 10 though, this is the cool stuff. We have the Red-Eye Zombie Dragon Lord. Another card that I often go into. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, target a zombie in your graveyard, except this one, and special summon it. If this card is in your graveyard, banish a zombie you control and special summon this card. So it comes back pretty easily, and it brings back your other zombies. It does a lot of stuff, and being a quick effect is relevant, actually. And I think I'll show off why when I go over the combos. And the last level 10 is the Shiranui Sun Saga, 3500 attack. This card is pretty sizable as well. If it is special summoned, return any number of zombie synchro monsters that are banished or in your graveyard to the extra deck, and destroy cards your opponent controls equal to that number returned. So it is difficult to set up, but if it works, this can be a board wipe against your opponent while you have this massive monster in play. and if a zombie monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, banish a Shiranui monster from your graveyard instead. So it also protects your monsters. Not a bad thing at all. Level 10 is surprisingly easy to do in this deck, so you might be seeing this card quite a bit. And my final Synchro monster is the Psychic End Punisher at level 11. Again, unfortunate that it is not a zombie, but it's so darn good, I really felt like I needed to use this card. So while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this Synchro summoned card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Once per turn, pay 1,000 life points, target a monster you control and one card your opponent controls and banish them. The start of the battle phase, make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. Note that your life points don't have to be lower than your opponent's. Hang on, this is out of focus. Where are you? Your life points don't have to be lower than your opponent's in order to use that final effect. So even if you're already winning by quite a bit, you can still just give this thing a massive power boost. And yeah, this is, it's definitely a finisher, let me tell you. And at the end of the extra deck, we have our Link monsters. Hang on, there we go, let's focus the camera. Link Karibo needs a level 1 monster. Opponent's monster declares an attack, tribute this card to change the opponent's monster's attack to 0. So, that is not important. What is important is that you can use this to, link away your Glow-Up Bloom and send it to the graveyard to activate its effect. That's really all Link Karibo is there for. So it's an easy way. It is not what you want to be using with Glow-Up Bloom, but if you've got no other choice, this is one way to get it into the graveyard. Here's the Vampire Sucker, which needs 2 zombie monsters. This is a very useful card. This is a solid one. So if you would tribute a monster for a tribute summon, you can tribute a zombie monster your opponent controls instead, which doesn't happen often. But what you can do, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field and defense position, and it becomes a zombie. Okay, why would you do that? Well, if a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, you draw a card. So you can use that, bring back something of your opponent's, and then draw a card off of it. That's not ideal. But if you bring back any of your zombies, you also just draw a card, so this is a great way to get that extra card. It is a useful little Link monster. We also have the Avendred Savior here, needs 2 zombie monsters, so only use each of this card's effects once per turn, target a Vendred card while there aren't any, so that first effect is irrelevant. But, however, during damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, send a zombie from your deck to the graveyard, the opponent's monster loses attack equal to that monster's level times 200. So this is just another way to cheat something into your graveyard and mess around with the opponent a little bit. So it is useful. I don't use it as much as the Vampire Sucker, but still, it's not bad. And finally, we have the Vampire Fascinator at Link 3. So, I rarely use this card, but, you know, it's there in case it's necessary. If it's Link summoned, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field and defense position. And you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies, so you can use this to just increase your own board presence, but you can tribute a vampire monster and target a monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. That is pretty much the reason why I included this. Sometimes the only way to get rid of something is to take control of it, and Vampire Fascinator can certainly do that even on its own. It can just sacrifice itself. So that is why it's there. Now, the scariest part about this deck is that it's actually not finished. If you were keeping count, I only had 14 cards in my extra deck, and that is because I do not own a copy of Baronne de Fleur, so I'll put a picture of it up on screen or something, in case you're unfamiliar with the Baronne. But it is just a busted card. It's very good. It is a level 10 Synchro, Once per turn, you can target something and destroy it, and once while face up on the field, you can negate an activated effect and destroy whatever activated it. So it is a control card, it is a removal card, and it has 3000 attack. It is a very good card to go into if you have the chance to, because unfortunately it's also not a zombie. So yeah, once again, the glow-up bloom strikes, preventing you from playing non-zombies. But if you have other means to hit level 10, then yeah, the Barone is definitely one of the first cards that you would want to consider playing. So I don't have a physical copy yet, but you'd better believe I have it on Master Duel. Alright, so let's get down to some of this deck's combos. And you know what, I think before I get into that, I should really explain something. You see, this deck doesn't really have any cut and dry combos that one card will always lead to another that will leave you on some unbeatable board on turn 1. It's just not that kind of deck. But I will say, actually, that to me is a positive. Because every game is going to be different as you are given your opening hand of 5 cards, and then you have to cobble together yourself what you want to do with them and where you want to go. So, while this deck is actually surprisingly legitimate, it can definitely punch above its own weight class and even take on some of the more meta decks out there on occasion. You really need to know what you're doing. This deck takes a lot of practice. You need to know what the cards are, you need to know what you're looking for, and when, and where you want to end up on your board. So once you have that practice, and once you know what you're doing, then you're gonna have a good time, and it's gonna be a really fun deck to play. Until then, well, you know, practice makes perfect, right? But yeah, like I was saying, this deck can certainly take on better decks, I would say, than itself, and any, you know, not quite meta decks, you're definitely gonna have a bunch of good duels against them. So I just wanted to get all that out of the way first. So here we go, let's take a look at some cards. So the first thing that you're pretty much always gonna want is a copy of Zombie World. This really needs to be in play at all times. So there are ways, right, of searching up like the Necro World Banshee and then just playing this from your deck. So it's not impossible to get out there, it's actually pretty simple. Unfortunately, yeah, getting Necro World Banshee sometimes messes up your what you're trying to do. It's an extra step, but it's not too bad, really. And of course, you could just have Zombie World in your opening hand, so hey, that makes things a lot easier. But most of these combos do require you to have Zombie World in play already, so we're just gonna assume that you got it out there somehow, and you are now continuing on. So let's take a look at what your average first turn might look like. So you're gonna play something like the Shiranui Solitaire, so that you can sacrifice it right off the bat and special summon the Unizombie. Now, of course, you might just have Unizombie in your opening hand, and then you don't need to worry about this card. But when this card is in play, you can target itself with its own ability to raise its own level to 4, and then send your glow-up bloom from the deck to the graveyard, at which point it will banish itself, so that you can special summon Qiangxi the Spiridao. Yes, here we go, we are starting off with this Qiangxi, which has a number of uses, but for now, it's just going to send the Doom King Baller Droch to your graveyard, and now your field looks like this. So you've got a level 6, remember Unizombie is at level 4, so you can synchro right into a level 10. Unfortunately, you can't choose the Barone because you used Glow Up Bloom, but still, you have other choices. you could actually go right into the Vampire Sucker, which only needs 2 of any zombies. And this is a useful card to have out there, but right now you are perfectly set up to instead synchro summon the Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Lord. So we're gonna do that, actually, so that on your opponent's turn, and remember, this is all off of only 1 card, so you've definitely got other stuff that you could do from your hand. But if this is all you've got, you go to your opponent's turn, you have a field spell in play, so the Doom King will special summon itself during their standby phase. And now you're looking a lot better. You see, everything is now a zombie, which means that the Doom King's ability will trigger off of whatever your opponents are doing, as well as yourself. So you can use this quick effect to bring back whatever from your graveyard, but because the zombie activated its ability, you can use the Doom King to banish something. A handy ability to have at quick effect speed. Or, if your opponent plays something and uses an effect, because whatever they play is now a zombie, you can use the Doom King to negate that effect. So the Doom King is a control engine in this deck. It is very, very powerful. Sometimes your opponents really can't do a whole lot about it, and then they're just sort of stuck there. But yeah, this is sort of what you want your field to look like at the very minimum after turn 1. Now, here's another cool little interaction that you might shoot for, and maybe it's even another way to start your turn, because you can play Gozuki, and with that, you can send, once again, your Glow-Up Bloom to the graveyard, which will special summon Changshi the Spirit Owl, which can send something to the graveyard, like, oh, I don't know, the Doom King, perhaps. It's always good to have one of those in there. But now your field looks something like this. So you can't synchro summon with these two, unfortunately, but you can use them to link summon out the Vampire Sucker. But here's where the interaction is really interesting, because Gozuki will be sent to the graveyard because of this, which means you can banish Changshi the Spirit Owl to special summon another zombie from your hand. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Any zombie, really. Oh, I nudged the camera. Hang on. There we go. Back in focus. So, we have played any other zombie from your hand. But it doesn't end there, because now that we have banished Changshi, we can banish, in turn, Gozuki to bring Changshi right back. So this is just a free special summon, and now you've got another monster that you can do other things with. So that is something to keep in mind as you're playing this deck. Something to look out for is that these two go together very well to chain a couple free special summons. Actually, you know what, you don't, if you had, like, a tuner or something in your hand, like, say, Unizombie, instead of playing this random zombie that happened to be right beside me, yeah, you can actually go into other synchro plays just off of this. So yeah, you could actually get an even better looking field by starting that way. So yes, Gozuki is an extremely useful card, especially when combined with our Spiridao friend here. Also worth noting, during your opponent's turn, when this Doom King is going to bring itself back, it will trigger Vampire Sucker, which means you will draw an additional card off of that. So, again, another reason why Vampire Sucker is so good, you can get the extra draw on your turn as well as on your opponent's turn, so keep that in mind too. So let's talk about some of the Shiranuis here, shall we? So, if you start with Shiranui Squire, you can automatically special summon the Spectral Sword. So now you've got it all set up for a level 6 Synchro Summon, which is, you know, it's not bad. Really, all it's gonna get is this Immortal Dragon right now, but this will lead to more things. Because, you see, the Immortal Dragon can send, say, Gozuki from your deck to the graveyard, and then, well, now you've got a Gozuki in your graveyard, right? So you can banish, say, the Shiranui Squire to special summon whatever from your hand. Again, there's... hopefully you have other zombies in your hand that you can special summon and enable your plays to continue. But because you banished the Shiranui Squire, which you started with, right, so you know that it's going to be there, you also get to draw a card and discard a card. So it's just little extra bits of value like that you've got to keep an eye out for as you continue to chain together whatever random effects that you might have in order to build some kind of good board. And speaking of chaining together good effects, let's talk about the Shiranui-style Swallow's Slash, the trap card. So if you have this set, then, you know what, let's also just assume that you've got the Doom King in play, because that's super easy to do, especially since it comes back on your opponent's turn. So, say that you've used both of the Doom King's abilities already. You've made your opponent's turn a headache for them, but it doesn't stop there, because you can also activate this trap card to destroy 2 of their cards right off the bat, just by tributing your Doom King, who has already used both of its abilities, and who will just come back on your turn anyway, so it's not really that much of a cost. But then you have to go into your deck to see what you want to banish, and that is where you have some choices, and, you know, these are my favorite ones, of course. If there's nothing else in play that you want to destroy, you could, of course, just banish your Shiranui Squire, and give yourself an extra draw and discard, which is handy to have. But the Shiranui Spirit Master is just another extra card destruction that you can get off of the Swallow Slash. So this could be a destroy 3 target cards ability, because when this is banished, of course, you get to destroy something. So yeah, it is a versatile effect. It is a very good thing to keep in mind, because yeah, if you have gotten rid of 3 of their cards at once, then they're probably not in a very good position anymore, especially if you also used the Doom King before that. And there you go. Honestly, that kind of brings me to the end of this deck profile. Of course, there are even a couple of the other cool zombie synchros that I didn't talk about, because again, so much of this deck is just looking at what you have in your hand, and then trying to figure out what you can do with it. What cards lead to what? What can you send to the graveyard? What can you bring back from the graveyard? Like, I didn't even talk about, like, Plague Spreader Zombie, right? Because, really, it's not part of any singular combo. It's just a card that you can send to the graveyard and bring back easily to continue your plays. And really, that's what this deck is all about. It's just about taking what you've got and seeing what sort of game you can create this time, because very often it is going to be something completely different. So yeah, there we go. That brings me to the end of this Halloween special Zombie Synchro deck, and I do hope that you enjoyed it. You know what, if you ever build a deck similar to this, good luck. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. But yes, this brings me to the end of this profile video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, and I hope that you'll join me again next time for whatever deck I might be profiling next. Till then, ta-ta. There it is! Well, I asked for an ancient copper dragon, didn't I? Oh, what? No! This is the card I was looking for. Oh, thank goodness. That is wild. That is absolutely wild. Predaplant, Therion Ball, backup team. Oh, yes.